You can't leave my audience and me hanging. How did IIM Ahmedabad happen to you then? If you don't mind sharing numbers, what kind of top line did you touch in 1 year? What were your customer base? I'm asking from a place if someone is kind of keen of getting into this business, could just kind of understand the unit economics. Wow. Wow.
And the
Impressive shit. I would not be surprised next you get the forward by Rishi Sunak. So that will be pretty interesting. As India sees new numbers of rising unicorns, it sees a new massive layer of firing across the startups. In this podcast, we are going to be discussing the deep secrets of entrepreneurship, MBA journey, and consulting. I'm going to be interviewing Ujwal Kalra, who's the CEO of a rising startup called Nakad. He's been a team leader at Boston Consulting Group and he's studied at IIM Ahmedabad and IIT as well. He will take you on a roller coaster ride on how he started his second venture, how did his first venture didn't really materialize, and how did he actually join IIM Ahmedabad after his second attempt. You are going to be learning 3 things from this podcast. Number 1, the power of markets in the world of startup. Number 2, how to pick up co-founders actually in a startup. And number 3, resilience and the power of building a personal brand for yourself. So feel free to hit on the subscribe and the notification button so that you get notified. And with that, let's get started.
Conversation with my father, when I told him this back in 2010, I told him that I would want to be an entrepreneur. Pleasantly, he said, "Yeah, sure, it's your life."
Wow. You were in class 10 when you told your father that you want to
No,
become an entrepreneur?
this was after first year of college. This is 2010.
Okay, got it. I don't think I ever thought to be an entrepreneur when it was 2010. So this is pretty kick-ass. Go on.
So this was, in fact, when entrepreneurship was not even a known name. Definitely not a household name now. What it is, particularly after Shark Tank, right? And no one knew what it means. But inherently, there's a kick which I got from the idea of building things from scratch, which can create an impact. So that's where the journey started. I became E-Cell head, the entrepreneurship cell head at IIT Guwahati. Post IIT, started my first startup called Memorable Shadi, that was in wedding management space. In fact, there's a case study written on the startup. It's in fact, I go and teach at IIM Ahmedabad and Ashoka University. It's also taught at Harvard Business School.
Very nice. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Post that, so again, as I said, in IT did a bunch of stuff, then started my first company. Then joined IIM Ahmedabad. Again at IIMA, did bunch of stuff around academics, particularly around entrepreneurship. So back then, in fact, me and a few friends, we were discussing on how to build startup. And of course, there were a lot of YouTube videos. There's a lot of material present online, right? But not really two things. Not really there for the Indian context. And secondly, not really coming from the people who have built. Right, and that's something which a white space which we thought for ourselves that if we can go and let's say chat with Sachin Bansals of the world, or Sanjeev Bikhchandani, or Deep Kalra, or Ritesh Agarwal from OYO, and so on and so forth, and the journey of building, right, that would be really amazing. So that's when back in IIMA, this is 2016, we started how to start a startup, which is a 10-step startup journey on thinking of idea, building a product, forming team, launching the product, raising money until the exit. And we got all of these, the biggest and the most stellar entrepreneurs in India. Beautiful insights, and each one of them talked about how they solved for those nuggets in their company. So for instance, Sachin Bansal talks about how he hired people. Right, Ritesh Agarwal talks about how he scaled up OYO. Basically, we put that on YouTube. So eventually, over the years, and I didn't even know that. Eventually, over the years, it gathered upwards of 4 million views.
Wow, impressive. Cool.
So that's when, in fact, I was. This is now 2018. After graduation, I was working in BCG. So post IIMA, I joined BCG, Boston Consulting Group. I was having conversation with my father. This is January 2018. And he said that what happened to the series you had started. I said that it's up there on YouTube. Then I saw it online, how many views I got. And I thought this is very interesting. This is kind of A/B testing, right? This is
Correct.
kind of
Yes.
product market fit. So he
Yes.
said, why don't you write a book? I said,
Makes sense.
Much giving it a thought. I said, yeah, sure. How difficult would it be? Although honestly, I didn't know. Right? And it's as good as building any startup. You don't know. But obviously, you can only connect the dots looking backwards. So started writing the book, got my co-author on board, Shobhit. He's my junior from IIM Ahmedabad, also joined BCG.
Very nice. This is the BCG clan. Very nice. Is Shobhit still with BCG?
He's still with BCG, yes.
Very nice.
He's a project leader now at BCG.
Very nice. Interesting. So you mentioned about, sorry, what's the name of the book again?
So the name of the book is Startup Compass.
Very nice.
It's published by HarperCollins. The foreword of the book is written by Mr. Narayan Murthy.
Wow. Wow. Impressive shit. When I think of Narayan Murthy, now I think of Rishi Sunak. I would not be surprised next you get the foreword by Rishi Sunak. So that will be pretty interesting. So you got Sachin Bansal. Sorry, you were saying something.
Yeah. So in fact, when Rishi became the PM, I mailed him that. And of course, it was the Diwali day. So now, in fact,
yes.
I mean, Mr. Murthy is, so over the period of time, he and I have became and are now in regular touch. Really. So in fact, last month itself, he launched the book. He had traveled from Bangalore to IIM Ahmedabad to launch the book.
Very nice.
And sat with him for almost 1.5 hours with my parents. And when he was talking about me in front of my parents, I saw a
mic drop moment, man.
I saw a drop in my father's eye. So
I'm sure. I saw this cool photograph of yours with Mr. Murthy on LinkedIn, but I can just imagine the emotions that your parents must be going through.
Yeah.
You mentioned Sachin Bansal. You mentioned Ritesh Agarwal. Who all else did you interview?
There are a total of 15 people in the book.
Very nice.
13 entrepreneurs, 2 VCs. So
Very
2 VCs are Anand Daniel from Axel and Rajan Anandan from Sequoia. Among the founders, again, 13 of them, which include Sachin Bansal of Flipkart and now Navi, Falguni Nair of Nykaa, Sanjeev Deepchandani of Naukri, Deep Kalra of Make My Trip, Ritesh Agarwal of Oyo, Abhiraj Bail of Urban Company,
Very nice.
and so on.
This is pretty fantastic. I have one more question about how do you make contacts with such people so that you can become cool people like Ujwal. But before that, I want to talk about and have a comparison between your previous startup and current startup. You are the CEO of Nakad, right?
Correct.
If I'm not wrong.
Correct.
The first startup was called Matrimonial. Memorable Shadi. The name is very interesting. Talk me through it. What went wrong, if at all it went wrong? I'm assuming it is not anymore a running startup. What were the mistakes you did before that you're trying to avoid at Nakad right now?
So at that point in time, when we started, let me give you a brief context of where I started Memorable Shadi. This is in 2014. So we had done all the arrangements with respect to wedding, finding venue, catering, etc. for my sister's marriage. And at that point in time, it was an insane hustle. So from December 2013 to April 2014, we were just running behind vendors, right? And we saw that everyone gets married, right, in a family, and everyone would be struggling for it. Because what everyone wants is some kind of a dream wedding at an appropriate cost, right? And what we thought at that point in time was to make an OYO for wedding services, so which is a hand-picked set of vendors, and you can rely upon our brand that we will deliver the services. Of course, since it will be scaled up, there will be economies of scale. Therefore, we will be able to do it also at a cheaper cost. That was the thesis. When we started, we made it as a marketplace, online marketplace. What we realized is that since it's once in a lifetime kind of a setup, people would want to have touch and feel and offline negotiations and so on. Right? And that's where, in some sense, the business became from online to offline. Right? Now the thing is that in such a setup, so weddings are a place where people spend money, right? And you as a company can make good money out of it. By good money, I mean to say good margins out of it.
Correct.
Right. However, the thing is that since it became offline, while our EBITDA were in double digit percentages, and really good top line we were having, but since it became offline, it would not become a $10 billion company in 5, 6, 7 years.
Correct.
It will be a good dhanda.
Correct. Yes, I was about to ask you that. Yes, correct.
Right, but not a scaled up business. And as an entrepreneur, I wanted to build something which is in 10 years becomes a $10 billion company.
Fantastic. Correct. So did you make money out of it personally?
Yeah. We made money out of it. My co-founder took over because at the end of the day, it's about the aspirations of the founder.
Correct.
Right. So my co-founder wanted to run this because we were making good money out of it.
Correct.
His aspiration was not to touch multi-million people on multi-million lives. His aspiration was to build a good dhanda, and it's as per the aspiration of the founder. So he took it.
And what was the name of the founder? Where did you meet him? And when did you really realize कि यार उसको तो धंधा करना है? He's trying to make money out of it. Yeah. I am the aspirational one. So also talk me through what kind of tough chat was it, if you can.
Yeah. So in fact, I started all alone in 2014. And in fact, my co-founder, his name is Vishu Tanwar. He is IIT Delhi graduate, almost 7-8 years senior to me. He was in fact one of my first clients as part of Memorable Shadi.
Very nice. What a shrewd founder. What a shrewd founder. You got a client as a co-founder. Very nice. Okay.
So did his marriage. He also got excited with what we were building. So he joined me.
Makes sense.
Ran that for almost a year. And when I realized, when it became an offline play, I realized that this won't scale up, right? We were minting money, but we would not have scaled up. And that's when I told him that, look, I don't want to run this because I want to build something which is much larger than this. This is a good dhanda. There is nothing wrong in it. It's just a difference in aspiration. So what do you think?
Got it.
So he said, no, I'm still interested in running this and I want to take over.
And he took over. And is he still running it?
So COVID hit us. So until then,
ouch. Got it. Sorry. So help me also understand two things. So when you say that you felt that it is not very much scalable, and I've always felt that in the Indian context here, someone who can crack marriages, right, is sitting on gold, right? Yeah. So what is the bottleneck that you felt operationally or from the market size? I think it would not have been a market size problem. What was it that really hit you in terms of you realizing that this is not scalable for that $10 billion venture?
So basically think of it. If I'm thinking of a $10 billion company, right? And by the way, the reason I'm talking about valuation, honestly, and this is true for most of the founders I met who are really worth their salt, valuation is just an output metric, right? There are a lot of externalities involved as well in valuation, particularly, and we'll talk about the macroeconomics which are playing out right now.
Right.
But there are intrinsic factors, then there are extrinsic factors, right? Extrinsic factors are not in your hand. What is in your hand are the intrinsic factors, which include how many customers you've acquired, how much money you're making of them, what's the retention among them, and so on and so forth. Right? The reason I'm talking about valuation is because that is one metric which people understand. If I were to talk about, let's say, 1 million customers, you won't be able to compare apple to apple with the other set of companies you might have heard of. Now, if I were to talk about, let's say, $110 billion, right, worth of company, that means even if I think of the multiple, so the revenue which I should be having and the multiplicative factor which leads to the valuation outcome.
Sure.
Right? So multiplicative factor, assume let's say almost 20x. So that means around $500 million of revenue annualized
will eventually
to have.
Right.
So $500 million almost means 4,000 crores.
Correct.
Now with one wedding, at best, I could be making at an EBITDA level, at best, I'll be making 5 lakh or 10 lakh rupees.
Got it.
Right. That means just do the math.
And I don't think it is also a repeat business.
It's not.
Correct.
It's not.
Which is,
Right?
for example, I run an higher education venture, right?
Yeah.
It is also not in repeat business.
Correct.
It's like you went to IIM Ahmedabad, you're not going to study again from
Correct.
IIM Ahmedabad. K-12, on the other hand, is a repeat business. You study first year
That's
from
absolutely
first
correct.
class from
That's
Byju's, second
absolutely
class,
correct.
third class, so on and so forth. Got it. Also,
Right?
help
And
me understand. Sorry, go ahead.
and just to finish this line of thought, so that is the number of customers we need to acquire. Now, since it's an offline play, right, it will essentially be we need to throw people on acquiring customers. So
Got it.
it's not something which we have built a product and the company gradually scales up. It's that we need to have so many people on ground. So we would need to have like probably
Sales staff.
thousands or lakhs of people on ground. And for hiring a lakh people, right, it's a 10, 20-year journey.
Correct.
30-year journey.
Sure. Got it. That's pretty interesting insight. If you don't mind sharing numbers, what kind of top line did you touch in 1 year? What were your customer base? I'm asking from a place if someone is kind of keen of getting into this business, could just kind of understand the unit economics also.
So Shatakshi would not be able to share numbers because in wedding management, there are a lot of things which happen.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's a very disorganized play.
Sure.
So just as a context, multiple CR was the first year we hit, and then we were 20 to 30% was the annualized growth rate we were having.
Got it. That's pretty kick-ass, yeah. Now let's switch levers and talk about Nakad, right? And I'm asking about that, Ujwal, because many people will not know. And I think I was also really impressed by what you were doing at BCG, right?
Yeah.
The classic BCG work is management consulting. You pick an equivalent of Fortune 500 in India and you kind of transform them either from the top line or from the bottom line. And when I met you, and of course, we are soon to meet in person as well, is that I was really mesmerized by your work, right? Which is a continuation of your startup journey. You were leading Green Shoots.
Yeah.
Green Shoots was an arm where you would advise and give strategical consulting to leading unicorn startups in this country, right? And you must have looked at entertainment sector. You must have looked at the finance sector, health tech sector, ed tech sector. Why did you pick whatever you have picked right now? And how did you this time choose the co-founder for the organization?
Got it. I chose the co-founder first and then the idea later. So my co-founder Sambhav Jain, he's a graduate of IIT Bombay, and right after IITB he joined BCG. In his second project itself, we met. We were together helping set up MSME lending for a leading NBFC in India. At that point in time, we really gelled well. So in fact, we went on a trip to Pondicherry.
Nice.
Just the two of us, and I'm sorry if I'm romanticizing it too much.
You are. So I'm kind of curious to check with Sambhav also. Dude, why are you chilling with Ujwal in Pondicherry? But go on.
So it was his last day on the case, and he said that I mean, if someone is come to Pondicherry and only I raised hand, and then both of us went. So in that trip, I realized that I want to start up with him. When we came back, then we started every Wednesday night discussions on what we should start, right? And as a consultant, you like simply write down that these are the industries, these are the growing industries, this is what is happening in the market, and so on and so forth. What we realized is that fintech was a place where we had a very deep passion in. Like both of us really clicked together in fintech. Just happened to be the case that we were working with an NBFC, which is financial services, but both of us were really interested in fintech. And secondly, B2B was a place where we felt that we had, in some sense, unfair advantage. Right? So that's why we picked up a B2B fintech. Then the top-down approach was again MSME lending, retail lending, which is the bigger market, and so on and so forth. Then, but more importantly, came the bottom-up approach. So as a family background, so my father is a chartered accountant by education, and also an industrialist by profession. So he ran multiple publicly listed companies earlier, like really, really large companies.
Right? And what do you mean by ran? Was he holding managerial position, few of them?
So he was executive director of few of really large companies, really large publicly listed companies. Also, he was director, chairman, audit committee, etc. of MMTC, Metals and Mineral Trade Corporation of India. It's a 70,000 crore. At that point in time, it was a 70,000 crore company.
And which year is this?
This is so he was so he used to run two companies he used to run earlier, which is Agrodash Industries and Saptarishi. He ran from early 2000s to 2012. Then he came back to Delhi. So these plants were in Chandigarh and in Chennai. Then he came back and joined MMTC in 2012 till
Got
like,
it.
2015-16.
Got it. Pretty
Um,
nice.
so that's where basically all my childhood actually went in these factories, in supply chains, particularly looking on the financing side. And when Sambhav and I started thinking of what can we do in the financing field for the MSME, basically the entire, so me and my father both are late night sleepers, late night owls. So from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., 3 a.m., we would just keep on discussing, and eventually things started shaping up.
Very nice. This is pretty kick-ass journey, yaar. As someone who has done a case with Sambhav, and I told you this before also, who's your co-founder, pretty sharp guy, and I'm very sure you guys are to achieve a lot of milestones. Switching levers, yeah, let's talk about the macroeconomics of startup these days. There is a funding winter in 2021. There were, I think, 41 or 42 new unicorns. A lot of funding and a lot of unicorns were being celebrated. Cut the entire chase. We are sitting in 2022. Byju's is laying off employees. Vedantu laid off employees. A lot of leading startups are laying off employees, right? What do you think is the future of the coming startup ecosystem starting from 2022 to, let's say, even short term 2025? What is your view? Is it still optimistic? Over to you, yeah.
Got it. So the way to think of it, Shatakshi, is there are 3 stages of a startup journey: early stage, growth stage, and late stage. Right? Late stage, mostly where large private equity players or post IPO comes in. Right? As you mentioned, 2021 was a frenzy year. Right? Just to give you a few numbers, in 2020, so every year the funding has been increasing in India, right? But typically in the range of 20 to 25%. Or 15 to 25%, right? So in 2019, I think it was around $12 billion. 2020 was around $14 billion. 2021 was upwards of $36 billion.
Correct.
It was insane, right?
Insane.
And what happened at that point in time was that a lot of companies also went into IPO and so on. 2022, this year, was the year of correction, wherein and this is particularly I'm talking about in public markets.
Sure.
Right. A lot of companies which did IPO in 2021, they self-corrected in 2022, which included the likes of Zomato in India, right? Which included the likes of Nykaa, but more so driven by, again, the US market. Just as an example, Robinhood, fairly large multi-billion-dollar company. In US, equivalent to that, not exactly the same. In India, it's Zerodha, right? Correct. In August 2021, Robinhood had $55 per share.
Okay.
Come today, it's at $11. It has lost 80% of its value, right? Yes. Similarly, Zomato has lost 50%, Nykaa has lost 50%, and so on. Because in 2021, there was a lot of money. Now today, at that point in time, the money was being pumped in without thinking about the road to profitability. Right now, think of it. In India is still a nascent post IPO market. Right? If you talk to people who invest in public markets, the way they see it, of course, apart from a lot of metrics, which includes price to earning and so on and so forth, essentially it's about the discounted free cash flows. Today, value of free cash flow. That means at some point in time, the company has to make profit. Correct. Unfortunately, all the majority of the startups in India are not profit making.
Sure.
Market in US is much mature versus in India, right? So therefore, the Indian markets were not very favorable, particularly when they saw that there is not much road to profitability.
Correct.
Right, and that's where this slump started coming in. Now it had a domino effect across the chain. So of course, late stage startup got most affected, followed by early stage, followed by growth stage startup, followed by early stage startup. Having said that, early stage startups have been impacted, but not as much. The good part is that all the major VCs are sitting on a lot of dry powder. Like they have a lot of money still with them to
Got it.
deploy. It's just that now they are much more selective.
Got it.
They are not just spraying and praying in some
Praying.
sense.
Got it.
You need to have really good understanding of the market on how
Correct.
you make money, and so on.
Got it.
So having said that, and it has impacted, but if you are worth building a business, you will still get funded.
Got it. Fair enough. That's a very good insight. I legit know of founders, which is good pedigree, which is good for them. No product market fit, just proof of concept, getting funding, and no metal proven on entrepreneurship front as well. But I like the realist answer that you are saying, Ujwal, that there is a correction that has taken place, and people who still deserve that check are still going to get that check.
Yeah. Interestingly, Shatakshi, and in fact, there's a funding winter going on, and in some sense, we also raised money during
Correct.
funding winter.
Yes.
Most of the biggest startups have been built during funding winters.
Wow.
Think of googlepost.com. Think
Correct.
of Uber post 2008 crisis. Back in India, think of the first time funding winter happened in India. This is in 2015.
Okay.
Right. And the companies which were built during 2015 and post, Off Business, Meesho, Moglix, Farmeasy. Now all of these are really large companies.
Correct.
As a company which you've built during funding winter, basically means that you are firstly are very frugal, because
Correct.
money will not come
Yes.
very easily. Secondly, you're just concentrating on building business rather than concentrating on building a story which will sell.
Sure.
Eventually, as a company, as a business, you have to make money, right?
Correct.
That's in some sense
value addition.
Beauty.
Correct.
To the shareholders.
Correct.
Not just we will do this, but we are doing this.
Sure. I agree to that. Just taking few more anecdotes. So my education venture, right? They were legit startups which were making 3x to what we were doing approximately 3 years ago, when there was just funding spray happening, right? Almost at the verge of dying right now, which is what you are trying to say, right? Either you can just use that money to eventually, as a startup founder, you can just acquire left, right, and center, right? Those customers. But if your fundamental values, right? Are you producing a value in the ecosystem? Are you even disrupting anything? Will eventually stand out. My next question, Ujwal, is a clash of ideas, which is about funding versus bootstrapped. I run a bootstrapped venture, consciously so. You decided to take the funding route, right?
Correct.
Why do you think you decided this route? And I think institutionally, the sector you are sitting in, it is pretty hard to bootstrap, right? Because you are sitting fundamentally in the lending section, if I'm not wrong. But what is your view on bootstrapped versus funding route?
So this, in fact, there's a specific chapter in the book. Chapter 6, Raising Money. The first chapter, which is exactly called Bootstrapped versus Funded.
Okay.
So, and in fact, on that, Rajan Anandan from Sequoia has given his 2 cents on how should a business think of it. Right. Basically, he said that in terms of structure, there are 2 things on how you have to think of whether you have to bootstrap versus raise money. First is the nature of the business, and second is the capital founders are able to put in, willing and able to put in.
Sure.
Right. And first, even on the nature of the business, again, that has 2 parts. First is the nature of the product, and second is the nature of the industry. Let me talk about both. So, nature of the product, hypothetically think of any, let's say, B2B SaaS startups, right, which is growing slowly, but is making money out of every sale they're doing.
Correct.
Right? Net, the company is profitable. And from that profits, the company is able to run, pay off salaries to employees, and so on and so forth.
Correct.
Right. If that's the nature of the product, you don't need to raise money. As an example, Browser Stack, again now a multi-billion-dollar company. It started in 2012. For 6 years, it was a bootstrapped company. Right. Typically, which is a rarity. Not many companies bootstrap for such a long time. The reason it bootstrapped was that they were able to make money from day one, or from very early days.
Correct.
Right. And the associated thing with respect to that, the nature of the product, is the gestation period before you start making money.
Correct.
Right. So let's say if there is a long period where you need to build a product, where you need to hire a lot of people, then of course you need to make take money from outside, because you won't be able to generate money from the venture itself, from the product.
Correct.
So that's the first part around nature of the product. Second part is the nature of the industry, which more so has the lens of competition.
Sure. Correct.
Right. So for instance, even if I'm able to make money, right, but I'm growing slowly because I don't have enough resources with me, and the reason I don't have enough resources with me is because I'm
bootstrapped.
the money dheere dheere.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
And if it's a winner take all market,
correct,
then the company which has my competition, which has raised money, they'll come and finish me off.
Correct. Yes.
So that outside
zero sum.
Exactly. If it's a zero sum game, then yes, of course you have to raise money, right? The other way to think of it is you intrinsically look and you extrinsically look. Intrinsically, if you're able to make money, then through the product itself, then you don't
Correct.
raise.
Correct.
And extrinsically, if the competition
industry
is there, then you have to raise.
Correct.
So that's on the nature of the business. Second is on the essentially founders' willingness. Right.
Correct.
The classic example is Zoho versus Freshworks.
Okay.
So Zoho started in 1996, never raised a single penny.
Correct.
Very large player across multiple software suites, including CRM. And the other major CRM player is Freshworks.
Correct.
It started in 2010, raised its first external funding in 2011, and did their IPO in 2021.
Correct.
Right? So similar industries, but very different approaches.
Different approach. Correct. That's very nice. If I were to take a step back, and I'm just thinking once again from a user point of view, can you take few examples of industries that you believe intrinsically are winner takes all market, and few examples which are not winner takes all market?
So, in fact, I had tweeted about this a few days back. Most of the B2C spaces are winners take all. Most of the B2B spaces are not.
Correct.
I'll give example. For
Sure.
instance, again, classic example, Amazon, Flipkart, etc., are winners take all market, right? Of course, you can divide it among you that Amazon says that I'll be primarily targeting tier ones and metros. Flipkart says that tier 2 and beyond, but no one is stopping Flipkart to go into their segment and so on. Because most of these companies are marketing driven, right?
Correct.
So they are winners take all market. Most of the B2B spaces are not winners take all market. So for instance,
sure.
If I talk about, let's say, B2B e-commerce, so Zetwork is in fabrication space, Off Business is in steel e-commerce and so on, right? The way steel industry works is very different from, let's say, chemical industry works.
Sure.
Is very different from, let's say, pharma industry works and so on. So if you're procuring chemicals, that does not mean that you will be able to eat into the steel industry. And these are, again, multi-billion-dollar spaces in themselves. And the nuances of working in those industries are very, very different.
Fair enough. That's very helpful. Ujwal, kind of changing levers, because I think very few people have an understanding of the personal asset that a co-founder makes when there is funding, right? So for example, Naman and I run a bootstrapped venture, which means that 50% equity is with Naman, 50% is with me. Whatever EBITDA, whatever margins we make, we reinvest into the venture to eventually kind of lead into a VC-led model, but not as aggressively so. When people see that there are founders running billion-dollar ventures, and you yourself are, of course, running a funded venture, if you have an insight, what kind of personal asset can a founder make? My running answer is, as someone who has worked in, let's say, nearby, right? When it was actually getting money from Sequoia, I don't think the founder is able to make a lot of personal asset. The founders eventually run this. There is an entire psychology, or I am going to sacrifice it because of the larger mission or the cause that I'm about to make. Happy to be corrected. Happy to get more insight on the personal assets that a founder make.
So that's true. If you are chasing money, then you're not chasing the thing which will make it successful.
Sure.
Right? And as a founder, you have to be obsessed about solving the problem rather than solving the money aspect for you. Because if you chase the latter, you're not really optimizing for the company.
Correct.
Having said that, it's also not true that funded companies, founders, etc., do not make money. Of course, salary portion is there, which may or may not be as much as if you were earning elsewhere. But there's
partner at BCG.
Not as compared to BCG, that's for sure. But there is a considerable wealth which is made.
Sure.
Considerable wealth. So
Got it.
think of it, right? Let's do the math. Of course, becoming a unicorn is in itself a very, very
Correct.
big.
It's a rare event.
It's a rare event. That's why it's called unicorn. But eventually,
Correct.
everyone is chasing that, right? Let's say a $10 billion company, and there are, let's say, 3 founders who were equally split, as an example.
Correct.
So 33% when they started, and by the time you reach $1 billion, you would have done 3 or 4 rounds. Right? That means you would have vested around 60%.
Correct.
40%, 1/3 of that, almost 13%. Even
Correct.
if we
Less than that.
even
Yes.
if we say it's at 10% or 8%.
Sure.
8% of $1 billion is $80 million.
Sure. Correct.
Right? $80 million itself is a
Correct.
very good money.
And it's a conundrum that I'm, of course, going through, which is the purpose or paper wealth versus actual wealth, right? And of course, when you reach that IPO route, you sell your shares. If you decide to sell your shares, then at one point of time, you will have that wealth. And of course, that's the paper wealth that Elon Musk has accumulated, so on and so forth. But you were about to say something.
So that's not just paper wealth.
Okay.
Right? Many of the founders also do secondary. Of course, very, very small amount in subsequent rounds.
Talk the audience through what is secondary.
So secondary basically means that, let's say today I've raised seed.
Okay.
Right. So as a company, we've raised $7 million.
Sure.
Up till this point in time.
Sure.
Let's say when we do a series A, and we decide to raise X million more dollars.
Sure.
The new investors or the existing investors which come in, I give them new shares, as well as we as founders can sell portion of the shares which we hold.
Got it.
Personally, I would never want to do that.
Makes sense.
Right?
If you've taken that route, then you stick to that route, kind of.
Correct.
Got it.
No, so some people still do. And it's nothing wrong in that. For instance, let's say if I am holding at that point in time 30% of the company, and if I dilute 2%, and I make, let's say, 50 CR out of it.
Sure.
So why not? I'll have 50 CR. I'll give off 2%. And then I can divest in different asset classes.
Fair enough. I have 2 more questions. And the next one is coming from the process of fundraising, right? Ujwal, let's be very frank and honest. You and I come from little privileged class, right? Because of the universities and the organizations we have worked in. But many a times, because of the entire facade around funding, people are unaware what is the process of fundraising. So someone who may not be as well networked as you and me, for example, what is the right process of raising funds for them?
So there are multiple aspects to it, Shatakshi. What's the right time of raising money? Right? What is the how would investors look at us? How should therefore we pitch? And lastly, what should the process be? Right? And of course, those answers also keep on changing on the macro side. For instance, the answer of time for raising money in yesteryear would have been very different from this year. But specifically talking about your question on what should the process be, typically it's that you talk to VCs, right, at the lower level. If they like, they take you to the senior level. Then there are multiple discussions. Then there is IC, investment committee, and then they give you a term sheet. You're right. We come from privileged backgrounds. That means that we have an easy in some of the places, in some of the VCs. Right. Having said that, I'll be very honest. Yes, there's a difference coming from certain background versus not. But there are also a lot of people who have made really, really big, not coming from the pedigrees, right? For instance, VSS, for instance, Creds, Kunal Shah, earlier when he had free charge and so on and so forth, in fact, had dropped off from the college he was in. So the way to do that over there is that you may or may not, most likely you will not have very warm contacts getting into the fund. But your metrics should do the talking for you. Right? And that's, by the way, that's the best way. Because if you chase VCs, better than that is to prove that your customers love you, This is how you're
I
finding
agree.
the traction.
Correct.
And actually make it a seller's market than a buyer's market.
I like that definition, making it a seller's market than a buyer's market, which is the true yardstick of success, also, right? Your consumers are eventually talking you up,
Correct.
and that is the true yardstick of success. Also, I'm kind of taking extension from this question. So, you're talking to a junior VC, so he or she would have like 2 or 3 years of experience, either in banking, consulting, and whatnot. What are the 3, 4 things that a guy would care about when you are submitting the deck to him, or you are just kind of giving a pitch to him or her as well? So
Yeah.
if you could just talk that through.
So the VC's lens, and again, I'm reading everything from the book, is
No worries.
there are 4 parts to it. First is
Sure.
the team. Second is the market. Third is the product / idea. And fourth is the business model, which is how you'll monetize. In early stages, it's more so about the first and the second metric, right? The first metric about the team
Okay.
is in some sense, which is called the founder market fit, which is why are you
Correct.
the appropriate person for the market which you're solving for, right? Which can come from
Correct.
experience, which can come from pedigree, which can come from family background, and so on.
Sure.
And by the way, not just at a single person level, but at a team level. So this
Employee
is
level as well. Correct.
employee level as well. So this is at an individual / team level. Also, very important aspect to it is so these are still tangible parts.
Sure.
Right? One of the very important but intangible part is your storytelling skills.
Correct.
That's very
Yes.
important
I
from
agree.
VC's lens. That's because they need to get a comfort that you will not just raise money from me, but you'll be also able to raise money
Correct.
in subsequent rounds.
Correct.
But more importantly, by the way, more importantly is whether you're able to sell your story and get appropriate people to come with you
Sure.
as your co-founders, as your leadership team, as your employees. Because
Sure.
at the end of the day, a company is nothing but a bunch of people with a mission to solve.
I completely agree. And I think it has been spoken enough, but can't re-emphasize the value of storytelling.
Yeah.
To hire good people, to get good consumers, to just fundraising. And of course, and I also think one thing, I'm kind of taking a tangent here. Many a times people reach out to me and ask me, Shatakshi, how do you write stories on LinkedIn? And I know for sure it's not an art that I'm being just blessed with.
Yeah.
It's a daily consistent practice.
Correct.
And I'm saying this out loud because people many a times think, yaar, isko aata hai, isko pehle se hi aata hai, right? I can't pick that up. So it's
Correct.
a skill and art that you can nurture for yourself. Which makes me talk about the last question, Ujwal, about scaling up, right? It's the last stage, and you have analyzed businesses, and you have, of course, talked to the founders as well. Now that someone has done 0 to 1, right? You
Yeah.
have to now take it to 1 to now what you're calling 10 billion. What are certain things that you believe consistently founders have gotten right because of that they reach that multi-billion level?
So in fact, Shatakshi, I would actually break that further. There are 3 parts the way I see of it. The first part is the product market fit. Second part is the scaling up part. Third part is building a behemoth part.
Sure.
Right? Product market fit, you get to know, right? There
Correct.
are certain metrics, and of course, if you're getting customer love. Second part, the scaling up part, is basically when you found that this thing works. Right now, how to scale it up from 1 to 100. I'll take few examples. So delivery, it's a large now publicly listed company, right? I think for the first 1 or 2 years, they had just one warehouse which they were trying to perfect.
Wow.
And they made a playbook out of it.
Very
The
nice.
book is something which is like an idiot-proof written manual, so that
Correct.
once it is written, you just distribute and it scales up like crazy. And in the
Correct.
next few years, they made so many warehouses to the level they are today.
Correct.
Right? And for the scaling up journey, the most important thing is building that playbook.
Sure.
And that cycle I've seen again and again. Again, Ritesh Agarwal, Oyo, right? The same,
Yes.
exactly how many bed sheets are required, from where they need to be bought, what's the temperature which needs to be set in the AC, to that level, so that it
agree.
becomes absolutely
Idiot-proof.
idiot-proof.
I agree.
Right?
And what's the third?
Third
Yes.
part is on the building behemoth part. It eventually falls down to people, right? That you as a company, because think of it, when you're thousands of people, there will be multiple heads, multiple directions the company will go to.
Sure.
And as a company, the most important aspect then it becomes is the culture of the company.
I agree.
In
Got
fact, of course, we're hiring few people right now, right? And so culture is built from day one itself.
Got it.
It depends upon what kind of culture you want to build.
Sure.
Whether you want to build a cutthroat culture, whether you want to build a familial culture, whether you
Sure.
want to build an outcome-oriented culture. By the way, nothing is right or wrong.
Right or wrong. I agree. Yes. It's just dependent upon your
Yes.
own style.
Yes, yes, yes.
It's a very beautiful topic. And I was kind of thinking of Brian Chesky, the entire story of Airbnb. Just make your customers love you, right?
Yeah.
Which will eventually become a word of mouth. They grew through the entire loyalty program as well. So as a founder myself, Ujwal, I have my overwhelming days, right? And I remember last time when we were also having an informal chat, he was like, "Ki yaar, lagi padi hai, bahut kaam hai," etc. How do you really manage, especially when you're not just looking out for yourself?
Yeah.
You're looking out for not just the salary, not just the growth, but the well-being of your team members as well. How are you doing it? Happy to hear your 2 cents.
So I'll firstly talk about at the personal level, then I'll talk about at the company level. Right, of course, there are a lot of responsibilities on your shoulders.
Correct.
And there are a lot of times when you would want to pull your hair out. But the thing is, and it's also a burden which you can't talk to people.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
Of course, you can't talk to your family. And in fact, I recently wrote a LinkedIn post about that as well. The importance of family.
Yes.
But still, finally, it's your responsibility to shoulder.
Correct.
Of course, the way I manage it is sometimes, breaking things into, let's say if Sunday's second half, I will make sure I'll do nothing.
Got it.
That gives me time to just go back, think about myself, not just being, 100% of the time, 110% working and so on. Otherwise, things become really exhausting.
Sure.
Right. Secondly, also, in some sense, indifference is also a bliss.
Got it. Talk me through it. What do you mean by that?
So just keep at it. Even when things are not going in the right direction, just keep at it with an unobtrusive optimism that things will go well.
Hope at the end of the day.
It's actually more than hope. So in fact, I was talking to a person we're about to hire. He's my college senior from IIT. And he said that, what are your chances of success? I said 110%.
I would say the same. You're talking to a founder. Yes.
There is no other alternative than success.
Correct.
There is no other alternative.
Correct.
And
if a founder, go on.
If you're at it, so 2 things, right, which are required: perseverance,
correct,
and agility. Keep at it, but also keep your eyes and ears open, because you will need to change, iterate, or maybe even pivot.
Correct.
As long as these 2 things are there, there is no chance
you will not get it right.
In fact,
I agree.
What we call, and particularly I call myself, is a cockroach. Of course, there have been certain life incidents which have made me a cockroach, which have made me realize the importance of perseverance.
Very nice. I think perseverance in our society is just so heavily used, right? Because of all the motivational videos. I would just not want to leave my audience hanging. Define what is perseverance for you, yaar. Perhaps if you're fine giving an example also.
I'll give my example. So when I came back from IIT, this is 2013 June. At that point in time, as I said, right, I always wanted to do entrepreneurship. And at that point in time, I did not have a startup idea and so on. I thought that I'll do an MBA, right? And then it'll make me more equipped to manage a company.
Sure.
So when I came back, and in IIT, I did decently well.
Sure.
Right. So I thought that to get more exposure and so on, I'll do an MBA from outside.
Sure.
India. I had a conversation with my father. He said, sure, but give CAT as well. I was like, what? Why?
If you're asking an IIT engineer to give CAT, then of course you're going to get a score. Then conversation is... I'm excited to know when your CAT score...
It was not that straightforward. It was not that straightforward. So what happened is that the rebellious me, I said, no, I don't want to do. He was like, no, you do it. At least it will give you experience, right? To write GMAT, to give interviews later on, it will give you experience. So what he said made sense, but honestly, I still didn't want to. So without studying much, I gave CAT. At that point in time, I was also working, and I got 98.88 percentile, which was okay for getting into IIM ABC. So in fact, I just got a call from IIM Ahmedabad, did not get a call from Bangalore or Calcutta or even Lucknow.
Oh, okay.
Right, and probably the reason I got from Ahmedabad was because my 10th, 12th and IIT grades were good enough.
Good. Okay.
And
got it.
That year gave a lot of weightage to it.
Sure.
Then I thought, okay, fine, interview de dete hain. In the interview was decent. It wasn't great.
Okay.
The results came out, and actually by then I started thinking of in MBA in India actually makes more sense, because eventually I wanted to do entrepreneurship in India. Right? So the learnings of the ecosystem, the network which you make will be much more than if I were to go outside and do.
Sure.
Then started thinking of, okay, then if I get into IIM Ahmedabad, then probably I will join IIMA.
Sure.
On 15th of April 2014, the result.
You know the date. Oh my.
I know the date. And I was waitlist 1. Every year waitlist moves. So last year, I think till 18 or 19 or 28 it had moved. Prior to that, I think 35, 36 it had moved, and so on. I talked to a friend of mine. He was now going into the second year of IIMA. He said that, look, by the time you get a call to come to campus, by that time, the classes already would have begun. And from the second, third week onwards itself, your exams start. And it's a very fast-paced learning ecosystem. So he said that you come on day 1 itself when rest of the people are getting admitted, because on that day you'll get a call. I thought, okay, fine. So along with my luggage, along with my parents, I landed in Ahmedabad.
Delhi to Ahmedabad flight.
Yes. So in fact, I had gone to Bombay first to chill for some while with my sister.
Makes sense.
Took a trip to Lonavala and then went to...
थोड़ा chill कर लेते हैं, अभी तो लगने वाली है.
Correct. Then went to Ahmedabad. And when I landed over there, I was told that waitlist has not moved yet. And so they said yet 9 people are yet to come. So you start, you start attending classes or be in the campus itself, because if any one of them does not come, you will get the
seat. Very nice.
So I used to visit the dean every day. I used to visit the admission office every day, and so on. After 9 days, I was told that everyone has come back. And you need to go back now.
Oh my! You were asked to go back?
Yes.
How did IIM? You can't leave my audience and me hanging. How did IIM Ahmedabad happen to you then?
So next year I wrote CAT all over again, did interviews all over again, everything all over again, and was in the top of the batch to enter IIMA. So from rank 1 to finally entering in top.
Bloody kick-ass story. I've always had respect for you, but you know my respect is now yay high. Very nice. I always believe that luck follows those who are prepared best. Otherwise, it's very convenient for people to say, yeah, he's lucky, she's lucky. But such a fantastic story. In the hindsight, I think your father is a very astute man. He convinced you, he got a sunk cost in by getting you take GMAT, etc. This has been a fantastic podcast, Ujwal. I mean this. I think I also got a chance to learn. I got to know so many stories about you that I didn't know before. Look forward to catching up in Delhi. Happy to hear any last comments, if in case you have for my audience.
No, really loved interacting. And Shatakshi, firstly, really congratulations. Big congratulations, because the work you're doing is really commendable and helping a lot of people.
Perfect. Thank you so much. With that, we say goodbye. I still have my chai. I don't know about yours. So cheers again. Thank you so much. All right. I hope this was helpful. And I've always maintained, if you need more help to 100x your chances to get into management consulting, public policy and product management, feel free to check out my education venture, globalgovernance-initiative.org, where we run an impact fellowship program and an alt MBA program. And if you like this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up and of course share it with your friends so that they get to know about all the cool, interesting and insightful content I'm bringing out for all of you, absolutely free of cost. Ciao.